Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by Don Canada Jr., who is a speaker, an Ironman triathlete, and the founder and CEO of the Employee Benefit Coach, also the owner of the coolest name I've ever heard. Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Johnny Carson. That's so glad. It's so good to be here. Adrian, thank you for having me. I'm very gracious to have the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Well, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the Employee Benefit Coach?
Sure. Thank you. I worked at United Parcel Service through college and went through management. As an entrepreneur in the mid-90s, I entered the insurance industry with Prudential. I quickly figured out they were teaching me how to ask you how much money you had in your pocket, and then everything fell in place for Prudential. So I had a good education, even though it was a negative education. I decided to go independent and become a broker in 1995 and started a company called Silicon Benefits, which I exited in 2016, and working on my new model right now called the Employee Benefit Coach. There's some stuff that happened in between there, but that's the gist of it.
So can you dive a little bit more into the Employee Benefit Coach? Who are the people that Employee Benefit Coach is set up to help? And what are some of the pain points that they're experiencing that you're helping them solve?
Perfect. First and foremost, I was a broker and a top producer in the industry with the major carriers, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, and Aetna. And after I exited, I went into another venture and had found out that my clients were not having a transparent process. Products were being pushed based on bonuses, not the client's best interest first. So I had a rude awakening after I exited. Before that time, though, my formation comes about 2008 when I joined strategic coach Dan Sullivan's program out of Chicago. And that's really where, for the first time in my business career, after a decade, I was able to not just look in the business, but look out and start developing a new model. So 2010, Nancy Pelosi shared the powerful words that I'll give you by verbatim. We have to pass the bill. Amongst the fog of the controversy to find out what's in it, I realized quickly the senators in 2010, even though I'm watching this stuff on C-SPAN and in Library of Congress, they're not paying attention to it because it's already 3,500 pages. And my first thought was, this is really going to impact my livelihood long term. I should probably read that. So I took 6 months off my business and read what's known as PPACA, the first 3,500 pages of the Affordable Care Act. Started a consulting business at that point, started speaking to CPAs in Texas on all the major stages, giving continuing education credits about the Affordable Care Act. And your CPA is the most integral part of that, although people think it's health insurance. It's actually wellness, tax, and then health insurance. So over the time, I've developed a model that's pure. It's birthed out of the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which is a CAA, not the ACA. And in 2016, transparency, mostly in that predatory Medicare marketplace. Transparency with broker compensation, polarizing bonuses, lavish trips, and other things. I knew the way forward was just to sit on the same side of the table as you, Mr. Ferrara, and say, hey, let's work on this together. And I want to be pure, so you pay me directly. I don't have any products to sell or any services that you need to buy after the conversation. So that's where I am.
So, I mean, you read the Affordable Care Act, that was 2010?
Yes, sir.
And what was your takeaway then? And how did your kind of takeaway from that, how do you reflect on it? How do you view it 15 years down the road?
Great question. I mean, it's that's the look back period, but
right.
A mentor teach me something that was very powerful. And early, he taught me to read the legislation because your competition's not, and anything that affects health and welfare, retirement plans. And the other thing that was more important, he told me that it takes 10 years for people to learn about the legislation that's been passed, kind of like Nancy's statement. I need to give Nancy Pelosi credit here, all right? So I turned into an Iron Man. I got mad. I got angry. I got angry at the entire situation that our health insurance is broken. Reading stuff from Regina Herzlinger in the 90s when she was telling you what's broken. It's still broken right now. And I want to be really clear. There's a difference in healthcare delivery and health insurance delivery. Okay. And healthcare delivery, just to tell you what I've learned and where we are, and there's other experts in the marketplace resonating what I'm saying. United Healthcare, the CEO assassination. I mean,
Right.
I'll ask you as a consumer, what's the first two things you think about when you hear about that? What are the first two things you think about when you heard that happened?
It was strange. It was strange to me to see how the media reacted to it, because there was a media reaction that was very different than the reaction you were seeing on social media.
True.
And that's so the first thing that I thought was whoa, that was, to be honest with you, because and a lot of people felt like it was almost like a comeuppance, right? Which was crazy, that reaction, I thought.
Well, so one I want to dismiss, and there shouldn't be any hatred or violence or anything like that involved with stuff. But there's a message. If people start peeling back the layers, I mean, as an expert in the industry for a long time, I can tell you everything boils down into two things. You can simplify it into cost and benefits, and I hope that's what we talk about most here with the audience. So if I put the parallel to the assassination, I'll say that. Was his cost too high and stressing him out? Was his benefits not working? That's actually the answer. And if you really dig into the layers, he was a victim. The assassin was a victim of what our system has created for over the last 40 years. How has it changed differently? Well, it's slow. All right. So you know what? RFK Jr. championed that guy. Health and wellness. That was the biggest part of the Affordable Care Act reading, the first 3,509 pages. All right. I broke it down into three colors. Wellness was the largest color in blue. The tax was the largest color in red. Blue was wellness, and then health insurance, and the number of slides and all the culmination of my data. And so what I figured out, there's a wellness revolution built into healthcare reform. And it's in front of you now in corporate wellness. And let me be real sure I segment here. So first of all, my industry works on market segments, and a 2 to 50 sized employer having 2 to 50 employees has a whole different set of rules and a different playbook than you have if you're 51 or more employees, applicable large employer. If you're more than 51 employees, you have to provide insurance and you have to pay so much of it. At least, the employee can't pay more than 9.5% or 9.7, whatever it is right now. And or you're fined, and the fine's cheaper, but you still have trouble attracting talent. Here's what I've always said, even back then. The big companies' Affordable Care Act did not change anything. Okay. They're big enough to absorb it. They're big enough to minimize the impact on their employees. The market that I really serve, the underserved market, because they don't have the talent, my talent at their level. So I've dropped down to serve employers, primarily 2 to 250 employees. My sweet spot's under 99, 25 to 99. And the reason I say that is that they were never privy to what a broker was paid or how much the commission was on a health insurance plan to where the large employer was. It's listed on the 5,500. Okay. So if you don't know as a small employer with 75 employees who the guy's name is, what he's supposed to be doing, what he's being paid for, this is a non-performance formula. This is like picking out colors instead of people that are qualified. And so what's happened over time is that Consolidated Appropriations Act, again in 2016, put a spotlight like it did on 401k and financial planners in the 90s. It put a spotlight on the compensation. And so now the level playing field's out there. A small employer with 75 employees has to be provided a broker compensation disclosure statement that shows the direct and indirect compensation. There's a whole nother show on that stuff, but what's happening here is that we have evil parties involved. The consumers are the victim. That's the reason I'm on this thing today. And I can tell you who they are. Regina Herzlinger named them back then. I've added a couple actually. So who killed healthcare? That's what your people really need to understand. Who killed healthcare? Okay. First off, it's the insurance companies. And this is a guy that's been in the industry for over 20 years saying that. So y'all should take that for a grain of salt. Second is that it's the hospitals. And the pharmaceutical companies are your top three. I'll do PBM second. Your pharmaceutical benefit manager, PBM, is your insurance company. Blue Cross Blue Shield, their PBM is called Prime Therapeutics. They carved it off in 2 lines 20 years ago. Pharmacy over there, medical over there. And it's a profit scheme on marking up. You can look at Tucker Carlson's interview on Brigham Bueller, great Senate. He's been in front of the Senate, and there's this rebate thing happening. He's talking about it from the provider perspective. I'm talking about it from the consumer perspective. I mean, I see your premium. I see your out-of-pocket maximums increasing. That's the real damage to your audience, the end consumer. Kaiser Family Foundation published the last publication says that the average cost to insure a family in the United States right now is $25,000, pure cost. There's a problem with that.
Right.
15 years ago, you could rank your house, car, and insurance in that order. Now you can maybe rank it as insurance, family insurance first, mortgage second, then car. 19.6% of GDP is what our healthcare costs in this country currently.
Whoa. That's weird. Can you repeat that statistic?
Last time I looked at GDP, which has been 6 months maybe, but I mean, our healthcare, again, remember there's a difference in healthcare and health insurance delivery.
Right.
Our healthcare is comprised of 19.6% of gross domestic product, larger than any other country. Our quality of care is going down tremendously too.
And I mean, do you think that that's a societal shift, a cultural shift, a political shift? I mean, what do you think has kind of led to that?
That'd be a capital.
That's a loaded question,
capital
right?
shift. These insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers and everybody else that's attached to it that thinks they don't work for them. I'm sorry, I'm going to make some people mad today. Your doctor works for the insurance company. All right. That's what it is. And there's shake. And if he doesn't do what they tell him to do, he's not in the network. And you know what? The networks are getting smaller and it's all an HMO environment. So what are we doing? We're moving towards socialized medicine, guys. We've been doing it since 1993 with Hillary Care because Bill was busy during that time. And ultimately what's happening is that, and if you take all the municipalities and the government institutions right now, 48% of our market is public healthcare. And so that's where we're heading slowly. The Affordable Care Act, never lose sight with it, had one objective, and they've absolutely accomplished it no matter what the consequence, which was to ensure the masses. The numbers always shuffle, 46 million, 34 million. I don't even think there's 25 million right now, even 14 years later. But ultimately, the subsidy and the amount of money that's provided to people that have lower household incomes, giving them the ability to have quality health insurance was it. That's the number one thing. However, that's driven up costs tremendously for all of us, even them, technically, with the exception of the subsidy. And to give you some perspective, in 1995, 2000s, and this is a pattern, I'm seeing this HMO PPO shuffle already once in my career. Seriously, I could take a technology company in Austin, Texas, and have 25 employees, and their plan looked like a $250 deductible, $5 copay with a drug card, no more than $1,000 out of your pocket. And I'm going to slow down here because this is one of the things I want to express to people. It's not just your premium going up. Your exposure, your financial exposure is out of the roof at this point. And I'm going to illustrate this. So you have to remember, as I say this, everything trickles down to premium. If there's a mandate, the Affordable Care Act had 90 of them, 90 mandates. Says, Mr. Insurance Company, Mr. Pharmacy, Mr. Everybody, y'all got to do this. Mr. Employer, y'all have to do this. And those mandates cost money. All right. They get built back into premium. We all pay for the mandates. All right. So as we're moving through the Affordable Care Act, at first, Obama, I don't care how people vote, or just care that they vote, actually. And I see people for people, and I see facts for facts. During his tenure, he put a cap on the out-of-pocket maximum. That's a good thing. All right. So he says back then, $6,250, no more than $6,250 will be out of your pocket, deductible, copays, anything but your premium. Your exposure is $6,250 max. That's perfect. If your family member is a cancer patient, has a high utilization rate, that's beautiful. I mean, that person's never going to have to dig into more than that. And I have family members like that, by the way. Other side of the fence is, as an entrepreneur that may not go to the doctor and may not want that maximum, and now I don't have a way to raise it up to 12 or 15,000 to get my premium down a couple of $100 a month, I will share with you that out-of-pocket maximum has been creeping up from $6,250 to currently $9,100 per person per year. Remember my $1,250 example earlier was the old days. It's a big difference. Right. Now, let me compound the problem by the fact that you're a family of 4 or 5.
Right.
And a wife, 3 kids. So you're out of pocket. Let's just be, dismissing car accidents, subrogation or whatever. Let's just say that now it's $27,300 for you and your family.
Yeah.
Okay. That had nothing to do with the $25,000 I shared with you earlier. Yeah. Remember? Your premiums were $100, $200 a month. Your out-of-pocket exposure was $2,000, $3,000 back in the day. We are looking at family out-of-pocket maximums clipping $30,000, $40,000.
Wow.
And so now it's just not expensive on the front end, it's expensive on the back end. So this is the real big problem, in my opinion, because whether it's $5,000 or $50,000, people can't pay it.
Right.
All right. Right. And so then the hospital system, all these parts that I mentioned, remember them again: insurance companies, PBMs, hospitals, doctors, employers. Hate to tell y'all are part of the problem too. And nobody, no, it's not my problem. It is your problem. You've been part of the problem too. And then, obviously government, the legislative changes, and I'll throw my last one in Regina missed, is lawyers. I mean, there's legal stuff around all this stuff, and all these things are designed not to work in tandem, but to work against each other in the land of what I call the daily interest rate. Float. The float.
So can you tell us a little bit about the ostrich effect and how that affects employee benefits?
Yeah, so keep in mind, I've done this for a long time. I've been in front of over 1,000 CEO, business owner interviews, CFOs, CPAs. Been able to listen to their problems. I've been able to work on their stuff. I've been able to see the problems before they happen. And what's going on right now? I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Oh no, I was wondering about the ostrich effect.
So one of the things that I noticed after all these interviews, thank you. One of the things I noticed after these interviews, I was like, first of all, I don't care how smart the guy is that's running the bank or the, whatever it may be. All right. That's good. They typically, there's a stigma. And Tucker Carlson said it best. He says, I hate insurance. I have to have it. I don't use it. I don't want to talk about it. That's America, guys, right there. All right. And so what's happening is that we stick our head in the sand and we ignore everything that's going on around us. Anybody's like a scientist in your audience? I don't know. I can tell you right now, the ostriches really don't stick their head in the sand.
Okay? Right.
But there is this mythical, grapevine information that's happened. So my version of this is the ostrich effect is that, all of a sudden an employer spending $500,000, $1 million, $5 million a year on benefits, typically 25% of the bottom line. And they're not engaged. The first thing they do is spill it down. I don't do insurance, let's let HR do that, or let the CFO do that. And that's fine. If they're working as a team, remember, I've got a small market segmentation mind. I'm under 200 employees, and there's really not a lot of people in hats like you see at the large corporations. So the first thing to do is pass the buck. I mean, what is an employer going to do if I'm your leader at a company and I stand up and say, I don't know this stuff? I mean, you're telling me I don't have confidence. And so ultimately, it typically gets passed down the line, and at some point the financial mindset leaves the equation, becomes about the people, and that's fine. There's a balance to find in between there, but I can't tell you how important it is for a person that's running a small to mid-sized business, to have his thumb on the pulse of that employee benefit program. How well is it being communicated? The value of all this money that we spend on our employees. What are we doing on the back end when they have these large exposures that they didn't have before? And, and what are we going to do to help them get their head out of the sand is the equation. And I learned a long time ago, I mean, this follows make a pun out of this, but I had a coach one time teach me that 70% of decisions are made with your reptilian brain. It's emotional. and EQ, go through emotional quotient and all that stuff. It's the same stuff. And so we react to pain. The United Healthcare assassination might be another great example. A rate increase may spawn something that's painful that regurgitates another way or manifested up another way. So I'm personally just trying to have a pure conversation with people. So, what we do is I have a program called Stop the Noise, which means we eliminate all the sales components. There's nothing to sell. I'm paid directly by my clients to teach and advise. And ultimately, that's the only fee they pay. So I'm not tied to anything. I'm not tied to that insurance carrier. I'm not tied to that pharmacy company or brokerage or bonuses or lavish trips or all the other fat and this waste that's in this equation. I just want to be pure and teach y'all that if you have my benefit brain and you can put it on your CEO, CFO brain, your shoulder right here, together, we can do this better. Right. And most of the time people are like, well, what's going to happen with the broker? Your broker is an integral part of the equation. I'm not here to replace your broker. I'm here to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of in the marketplace. I'm here to make sure that you have confidence when that broker leaves the room or that insurance company leaves the room, that you're able to say, well, that decision is exactly what I think is best for this year. And I'm sorry, that doesn't happen in these small business organizations. All right, guys?
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about group health plans and the ABCs of group health plans?
I'm kind of leading into it, actually. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think, it's not the employer's fault. It's not the person's fault, the individual, but health insurance is a foreign language. It has ick all over it. It's on the bottom of the desk. It's just what it is. And we hate it and we pay for it. And it's like liquor, beer, and cigarettes. Doesn't matter what's happening financially, we're still buying all those products. So I learned a long time ago that, when I started the business, I worked for Prudential. I was an agent. I had a securities license and all that stuff, but ultimately I was an agent. And what that means is that I am working for Prudential and I am paid by Prudential and I only work for Prudential. I'm a captive agent is what it's called, captive agent. Okay. Quickly, that I mentioned earlier, that didn't work out for me the first year. I was successful, but not underneath the terms I wanted to be. And secondarily, I became a broker. So ABCs, agent, broker. Broker, what's the difference? Broker represents a multitude of companies: United Healthcare, Blue Cross, Aetna, Easter Bunny spreadsheets, marketing studies, research, yak. And that's your broker. All right. And then what's always been around, but there's a new paradigm shift in my industry because of the Consolidated Appropriations Act, to where these modern boutique consulting firms, coaching firms are propping up in the industry for the first time. I mean, there's been some fee-based planning at the larger levels again, but when you come down underneath 200 employees, you're pretty well talking about a broker who works for a brokerage, who works for the insurance company, if we're following along here today. All right. And so that's your ABCs. You got agents, you got brokers, you have consultants. To be transparent and candid, like I am in everything, I still have a broker's license, to be clear, because I wouldn't have the educational knowledge base to do that. I do manage a few clients that have been with me for over 20 years and I hate it. And I just do it because it's the right thing to do. I promised a marriage. But since 2012, I spoke to the CPAs and started my consulting platform and started speaking income. And then that's transitioned to a very simple process. I mean, what we do at the Employee Benefit Coach that's different than everything else is I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to take you to the masters. I don't want to buy your business. I don't want to come in here and blow through things and act like I'm doing you a big favor and I'm really, profiting from that. And I'm not against profit, right? I'm direct is the only difference. It's fee and it's fee for performance instead of this gobbledygook thing called group health insurance. We never know how guys were paid. Well, it wasn't y'all's fault. It just started happening 5 years ago. And remember, it's slow. And now as y'all start learning how people are paid, you're going to learn you don't have a contract with your broker. He has a contract with the insurance company, and that's fine. You're going to still need that guy, but ultimately he's never, in these smaller business cases, they probably don't know what he's doing and how much he's being paid for what he's doing. And employee benefits is messy. I've done it. It takes a lot to do it. But if you're, telling the client to call the 800 number and cash in a $50,000 check, versus, actually helping the client when they have problems and making sure that, long-term we're in this together, People need to know that. And I think there's a bad apple in every industry that spoils things. There's no doubt about it. I'm just asking people to stop the noise and start looking at this thing differently.
Well, and looking to the future a little bit, say, 5-10 years down the road, what are some of the challenges that you think businesses are going to face in the future when it comes to the employee benefit space?
Let me answer that on two fronts. So I want to answer that on an employee individual that's like me, my health insurance front. So you'll understand that part. And I want to understand that I can answer that from an employer situation. And, we're going to have to sing Kumbaya sometime here. So I want to go back before we do that, though, Adrian. When I focused on this problem, again, it's not just the $25,000 worth of premium, and your employer may be paying some of it. You may have subsidies, so that's the real cost of it. All right, $25,000. It's not just these out-of-pocket maximums. There's 4 critical terms every person should know: deductible, copay, coinsurance, out-of-pocket maximum. If you don't learn any of the other 3, learn the out-of-pocket maximum. That's where you stop paying that year. Okay. And I mentioned that it's climbing. I mentioned the compounding factor with a family, just worst case scenario type stuff. But what I really haven't shared yet that I need to clean that up on, there's another dangerous element. Y'all are being misled out there. Okay. So when you looked at out of network, when you're in a PPO plan, preferred provider organization, you go to the Blue Cross Blue Shield doctors and you get a discounted rate, 50% sometimes. And they're managing your care. Okay. But with a PPO, you have the ability to go to any doctor. And the insurance company, you may have a higher deductible, a higher out-of-pocket maximum, but that's your risk. If I want to go to Red Duke, if he's still doing heart surgery in Houston, I want a PPO and I want to pick him, and I'll pay that other $8,000-$10,000 and have the best, right? Well, there's a little dirty little secret here. The PPOs look like HMOs now, especially at the smaller level. And let me say why. There's a magic term out there. You'll see, hey, if you're in network, my out-of-pocket maximum is $9,100. If I'm out of network, my out-of-pocket maximum, meaning you're using your own doctors and hospitals that are not part of the insurance company's network, you have unlimited. I want you to think about that word for a second.
Right.
So I've got 9,100, 6,000, whatever the number is in network, and then I have unlimited. The consumer is going to go, wow, this is cool. It's unlimited for me, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about the deductible. It's unlimited. It's not. Anytime you see an insurance company use the word advantage, premier, elite, or unlimited, it means very clearly, and this is what should go viral off of this thing, is that means that your exposure is unlimited. If you choose doctors in your PPO that are out of network, he can charge you whatever he wants to charge. He does not have a contract with the insurance company, and whatever the insurance company doesn't pay, you're going to pay up to hundreds of thousands of dollars now. That's a dirty little secret. And you know what? I guarantee 70% of the plans of your audience, 70% of your audience has plans that if they have a PPO, they probably have an out-of-pocket maximum that says unlimited in it these days, especially if you're small group, 2 to 50. So let me answer your question. I've been visionary in this industry for a long time. I see stuff happening. I see patterns that have already happened before. And I'm not here to say that egotistically. I'm here to give y'all confidence in what I am already calling the great resignation of small employer group health plans. Reason I say that is that in the state of Texas in 2014, full brunt of healthcare reform, Affordable Care Act went into play. All the insurance companies in the individual marketplace took all their PPOs away and said everybody's on an HMO. Okay. Difference in a PPO and an HMO, health maintenance organization, HMO, you only have in-network benefits. You can't go out of network with the exception of an emergency, or you pay everything. Unlimited again, right? Unlimited out there. And so what's happening in the small group market is exactly I've already lived through this 2010 to 2014 when all these mandates were being passed to ramp up to the full brunt of healthcare reform, and the carriers left the marketplace. So we're all left with HMOs. Let me be really clear. The same stuff's happening in the 2 to 50 marketplace right now. If you have 2 to 50 employees and you're buying a fully insured group health plan or a self-funded, partially self-funded plan, you're in a marketplace, in my opinion, that is dead. All right. I have articles about grandma. I started talking to her. Hey, grandma, it's 900. It's 1,000 a head. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. And then she finally whispered to me, and I was like, you should have done this like 3 years ago with me. And y'all should too, by the way. And doesn't have to be with me, but here's the deal. There's a different way. You have to attract people. I got that. You have to attract, recruit, and retain. However, I don't think any employer, especially under 100 employees, ever went into business saying, I want to start an insurance company. And that's what y'all are doing. You're administering. And this is why I say your employers are working for the insurance company. All right. And so there's a different way. I'm not going to talk about that today because I just want to talk about the problem. But ultimately, there's a different way to do this. And if you know what I know, or you believe what I believe, I will answer your question. By 2030, I think it will be unaffordable for any employer underneath 100 employees to provide health insurance. It will bankrupt them.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty incredible and kind of scary notion, right?
It's already in front of us, Adrian. I have an account that I looked at in August. 16 employees, Texas, Katy, Texas. 16 employees. Basically, United Healthcare gave them a $199,000 annual increase. Let me be clear. They were paying $8,500 a month to United Healthcare, and now the rate is $25,000 a month.
Wow.
You're 16 employees. Can you really bear that? Seriously,
right.
You got to be really profitable after COVID.
Right. Right.
And so 16 employees, here's that reptilian brain going. Talked with a client. He looked at me and he says, you've looked at everything? I have. Well, Sally had cancer, so I guess we just pay it.
Right.
No. Sally had cancer. You had a good plan. That's what it does. United Healthcare, ironically, wants the same amount of money that they paid on Sally. That's the $199,000 increase. There's a different way to do this. You just got to give something up. And so we made some moves. Just to be clear, I cut off $130,000 of $199,000. Did that right? 68. So 68,000 was the net cost. So how did I do that? Well, that's for your viewers to find out later. All right. But ultimately, sitting on your side of the table, being pure, not being paid by any outside influences, and allowing me to be totally transparent at what I know and what I do. That's what's evolved.
Well, Don, this has been an absolutely, super informative, eye-opening in a lot of regards conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of the Employee Benefit Coach, where can the people find you?
Yeah, they can find me inside of Chief Executive Connections. It's a fast-growing CEO network that's already scaling nationally and internationally, and I've got a presence in there. So the first thing I would do is encourage people to go to chiefexecutive.ceo and look into the organization. I always joke around and tell people to join, and then you'll find me on the inside. That's kind of my first model right here. The second one is you could obviously email or call our office. We're here to help. It doesn't cost anything to have a preliminary conversation. I'm very big into putting a better person out in the world with what I teach them. And that's at don@employeebenefitcoach.com or 817-745-4608.
Well, Don, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing all that information with us. Really super informative. Like I said, eye-opening stuff. And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Don, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.